Hi everybody, welcome to the United Stand. So the injury crisis is back and the identity of the players that are injured have been revealed. Fabrizio Romano, The Athletic, have confirmed that it's Mainoo and it's a long one, but it's also Ugarte and Collyer who are in doubt for the Spurs game tomorrow. You can sense the frustration in the fan base. We've seen this movie before. You can see Ruben Amorim in his press conference yesterday. He knew the players, we didn't know. And obviously you can see why he looked so depressed, because Casemiro is not a player he wants to use. He doesn't use Casemiro. He's sat on the bench. He never brings him on. And now he's in a position where a player that is basically isolated and tried to phase out will be starting for him in a game where he needs to win. So he's having to now use a player and players that he doesn't want to use. And that is another step backwards for Amorim. Like, regardless, how can you build a system when you're having to use players that you don't really want to use? So, yeah, I mean, look, there'll be a lot of interested to read the comments. Mainoo's out for weeks. Collyer and Ugarte are doubts for tomorrow. All injuries picked up in training this week. We have a week off to train and we pick up injuries. And I suppose that's the message, isn't it, really? We were moaning between December and January about not having the time to train. We've obviously trained hard and we've picked up injuries. And I think this is a recurring theme at Manchester United, whereby the fitness is just not very good. The fitness department is not very good. And the second you start demanding more of these players, they fall apart. I don't know what we feed them. I don't know what they do. But this doesn't happen at other clubs. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, they're able. I mean, Fulham, Brighton. Every other club seems to be able to take on big workloads. And what Amorim's trying to do is what Ten Hag tried to do. He's trying to get his team to play with more intensity across 90 minutes. So you train the team hard in training to get them up to that level, and they fall apart. And then you're suddenly weaker than you were because you don't have the players. And people will start going, how long before the Manchester Evening News are reporting that the training's too hard again? And then you're stuck in this ever rotating cycle of some fans moaning that the managers work them too hard and that's why they're injured. But if Team A run around really hard and are intense and they're high up the league and we are far down the league because we don't, what do? Just stay where we are or try and train them up? And then you try and train them up and they get injured because they're not the right players, and you go back to the same old solution. This squad needs dismantling and replacing. But in January, we didn't do that. And in the summer, we're talking about sell to buy. If we don't remove players that can't suit this system, and it's not just Amorim's system, it's Ten Hag's system, it's any modern system, we don't have a squad to do it. They're not capable of doing it. And I think what's happened this week is we've had a hard week of training and some players have fell off because they just don't have the capabilities of doing it. In this case, it's Mainoo, who has picked up a few injuries, actually, because I think we overplayed him, and I think going to the Euros probably wasn't a good thing. He needs protecting. It's just very, very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. You cannot build anything on foundations that are weak. And whether it's players are good enough, technical are good, not doing the basics, not staying fit. I mean, look, I have got a problem, but I haven't got a problem with the injuries to Martinez and Mainoo because I think they're really important players and it's unfortunate that they're injured. But it just brings into focus how the unreliability of people like Luke Shaw and Mason Mount really hurts you when you pick up injuries to players like this, because they're always injured. So when you get these types of injuries, it becomes a crisis because you've already got two players that never play who are always injured. How we're going to deal with this? Well, look, Casemiro will have to come in. Whether that's a good idea or not, you would think Casemiro comes in. There's a couple of young lads that have been called up. I think Scanlon and Morehouse. There's talk of Obi Martin being called up. I mean, I have my thoughts on that. And where's the service going to come from in a game like this? You can't just put a centre forward up front who's that age and expect him to just do it on his own. Casemiro needs to have a good game for United, which is a rarity. Probably could put Bruno next to him. Maybe a Collyer or an Ugarte is fit enough to start. But I actually sit here and I go, I'm not surprised by this. And we certainly can't feel sorry for ourselves. There's a lot of conversations going on about the way the club's being run. But ultimately, it all comes back to this. We've got 3 midfielders injured. we don't have enough quality in the midfield anyway. Collyer, it's his breakout season. Ugarte is a new signing. Mainoo is 19. And Casemiro doesn't get picked. So realistically, even before the injuries, our midfield is a 19-year-old, a breakout player, and a new signing. Oh, and Casemiro, who Amorim doesn't want to use anyway because probably he's not good enough. So that midfield is weak. It was always weak. And the injuries weaken it, but it's a weak midfield. It's potential, a new signing. That's all it is. So we should have been looking to have more strength in the midfield anyway. Christian Eriksen is not a midfielder. I've never thought that. So the midfield is weak. Mainoo is potential, Collyer is potential, Ugarte is adapting to a new league, and Casemiro, I think most people think, is done. So we probably should have been looking at having another midfielder in as part of the roster anyway, which we didn't do in January. So, and we might not do it in the summer. So it's an area where you pick up a couple of injuries and suddenly you're like, oh my God, we're in trouble. But we're in trouble because the balance of that squad's not good enough. My main hope is that Mainoo, Ugarte are fit for the start of March, because that's when the cup happens. I mean, in the league, I don't want to lose to Spurs tomorrow, but we're not going to get relegated, and we're not really going to do anything in the league anyway. So, but I don't want to lose, but it's such a depressing situation, isn't it, at the moment? I don't really know what there is to be positive about with Manchester United right now. If Injury FC is coming back, I don't think it ever really went away, but if that's now going to come back, I mean, Amorim must just be despairing. Like, he must be looking at it and going, I've had a week of training and I've lost 3 players to injury. And how have they got injured in training? It's probably because the intensity's gone up to try and get the performance up. And this used to happen with Ten Hag a lot as well. Physically, there is a problem with our players. They physically seem to struggle with intense football. And I don't know why. And Sir David Brailsford used to be good at cycling. Surely, in his strategic review, he was looking at the fitness side a year ago. And I don't think we've made a massive amount of changes to our fitness side of things. So, yeah, massively frustrating. But I don't really know what to say. It's you look at the club in general, it needs huge investment into the squad. And it needs players removing. And you'll get somebody going, we've had $1 billion in 10 years, but this is a new system. This is a new manager. He's had £20 million for Dorgu. He needs a hell of a lot more. And when we get injuries or we're losing games, I'm sort of looking at it and going, so basically you think we needed a new manager and a left back and then we were going to be fine. We need loads of work. And every injury highlights the weakness of the squad. But I would be looking at why we've got 3 injuries in a week where we didn't play. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if it's the fact that, like Ten Hag, Amorim has tried to make them work hard in training to get their performance up. And some of them have fell off because of the increase in intensity in training, which seems to be a recurring cycle again. Why are our players unable to stay fit? It's a concern. Get your comments in. Let me know your thoughts. We're back a bit later. I'll speak to you in a bit.